Hey everyone, welcome to Shifty's Club. Today I'm going to talk about an intriguing deck that I'm going to be using the whole year next year. In case y'all haven't heard, I'm kind of going to a new schedule, so I really don't have that much time for the trading card game, so I'm still totally involved in the trading card game, don't get me wrong, but I really only got time for like one deck. And I want to see how that one deck does the entire year of Pokemon. So, without further ado, let's talk about it. Now, when I first looked at these cards, they looked pretty well. And I thought of running them into the deck together, and I did. And sadly, I didn't get the results I wanted. So, I made a few adjustments, tried it again, even more adjustments, tried it again, even more adjustments, and tried it again. And finally, I get it to work. And that deck is Groudon EX, Terrakion, Darkrai EX. Now, some people be confused by the actual outlay of the deck, but the way this deck works is basically this. First off, you have a Groudon EX, 180 HP, tank. Being weak to water and resistant to electric, and 4 retreat cost. So obviously when that thing gets captured up, it's not going anywhere. At least not yet. My idea, which seemed to work just fine, was to use the Darkrai EX to give free retreat. The 2 fighting in a dark, or because the deck uses fighting, dark, and prism energy, I can use a combination of all of them. So this way, I'm getting the full effect and full advantage of this deck. Now, the bad part is, I don't really have a way to, get the special darkness, because they're going to take them out by the next year. So, we're pretty much all screwed there. But I figured that Dark Patch would still be usable to get that 1 energy I need back onto a Pokemon. So I tried it, gave it some work, and it did really well. However, Groudon was still having weakness, so I figured Rocky Helmet. Tried it. I had lost a game in 10 games, and I finally lost. But the idea is basically this. You have Groudon EX active, and you have Rocky Helmet on Groudon EX. Whenever they attack Groudon EX, you place 2 damage counters on the defending Pokemon. And his last attack, 2 fighting and 1 colorless, says if the defending Pokemon has 2 or more damage counters on it, this attack does 80 damage plus 40 more damage. So all in all, you're doing even more damage to the defending Pokemon with absolutely no drawbacks to yourself, which I think is a very devastating and actually very wise attack to use. And if Groudon EX does so happen to get knocked out, you have the Terrakion for backup. Plus you also have that weakness spread of Empoleon, to where you can bring out Terrakion and start killing Empoleon that way. But usually the wisest thing to do when Empoleon hits the field is to bring out Darkrai EX and attach the 1 Darkness Claw you have on your deck to the Darkrai and catch her up an Empoleon with no damage counters on it and attack it for 110, hit another Empoleon for 30. Next turn, catch her. That's 2 knockouts in 2 turns. There goes 2 Empoleon. Where's the seeker at? There isn't one. So the only option you really have is to super scoop it up. So opponent's not really gonna super scoop up much. Well, not in this format at least. But that's basically the idea of the deck. The Groudon EX plus the Rocky Helmet to get it going. Terrakion for the Retaliate and the Water Weakness matchup. Plus Darkrai EX for your free retreat. And also to help it get some of those matches that it does struggle against. Now, what are the decks that this deck really does not do well against? Well, Durant for one totally destroys this deck's concept thoroughly. Once those fighting energy are gone, you pretty much got to work to get them back. And if they discard all your resources to get those energy back, you have nothing else to use. So, I tech in one Heatmor into this deck. Only one. Just for the play Durant. Just because, people are going to think, it's dead, so there's going to be that one or two people out there who's actually going to run it and do well with it. So, I'm not willing to take the chance, so other people might. I'll let them. So, also run the Heatmor in there. Now, if you want, and this is pretty much optional, but the Sableye is a very good fit into this deck. If you like Sableye to put in this deck, go ahead and put it in. If you don't, then don't. It's a flippy Pokemon anyway. It's really 50-50. If you get if you can use it, use it. If it gets knocked out, there's a free prize. So that's pretty much the only bad thing about it. But that was a Pokemon I really thought about putting in the deck until I really didn't want to give up that one prize. And another Pokemon that seemed to be interesting, but I decided not to put it in overall because it's not really that great of a concept, would be Mewtwo EX. That's too easy of a prize, it's too big of a target. There's really nothing you cannot do with the deck already with Mewtwo EX. So I decided to take it out for good and absolutely have nothing to do with Mewtwo EX in that deck. Matter of fact, I have no other EXs I have no Pokemon other than Groudon, Terrakion, and Darkrai that actually attack, with the exception of that one Heatmor. So, all in all, that's pretty much the only Pokemon I have in the deck. Now, what is the other matchup? Well, very, very rarely will you ever see this match, because I doubt anyone would ever play it, but it's Landorus and Tornadus EX. It's a very strong deck, but I'm telling you, Groudon and Terrakion cannot face this powerhouse, not even with Darkrai EX. Because Darkrai EX is still going to get that shot with 100, which is not going to help Darkrai in a matter of ways whatsoever. And with the only one discard on the Tornadus EX, they can just do it again and again and again. And with absolutely no response, Tornadus EX is going to dish out the game. And even therefore, when Landorus can set up with Harvest Energy, or Abundant Harvest, and get those energy back onto your Pokemon, it's kind of hard to stop it after a few turns, because now you've got 2 or 3 loaded Tornadus EX, and it's absolutely impossible for you to come back in the game against Groudon Terrakion. Or when you're playing Groudon Terrakion, there's absolutely no way you get back in this matchup. And Darkrai EX is like your last resort option for this type of setup. I'm not saying it's a great deck, but I did test it a few times, and boy, does it do wonders against those fighting type decks. And yes, it does have a full scale matchup against a lightning based deck like Zeal's, but I don't believe it's got enough potential to go too far into tournaments based on its simple strategy. And I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, because there are people out there who's trying it. There are people out there who's running it and doing well. Now, I'm not saying that I invented the Groudon EX, Terrakion, Darkrai EX deck, but I don't use any online resources to think of my decks. I just, use 6 prizes to talk to Adam. That's the only reason I use 6 prizes, and it's actually pretty good way of communicating with the other talented players. I get to see who all's doing what, though. Who all's overhyped this day and age. But being both a trading card game and video game player, but more into the video game, it's going to be a lot easier for the other players to get used to this kind of setup. But to go back to the original reason for this video, Groudon EX, Terrakion, Darkrai EX is going to be a great deck, and about to just tell everyone, because this would be probably the best trading card game episode y'all would get for a while, because I actually tested this deck a million times, unlike the other ones where I test like 100 and then stop, you know. But all in all, this deck's got plenty of potential, and depending on what comes out for the next 4 sets coming into next year, we're going to have to make plenty of adjustments to beat the metagame. So, thanks for watching. Post any comments you have in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you haven't. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Ship this club.